Hello, I'm Rabbi Mark Gelman.
And I'm Father Tom Hartman. We are the God Squad.
Still the God Squad.
Mark, one of the things that I think is important is as we get to know our Muslim neighbors better and better, learn from them, teach them, form a community together with them, a question comes up, and that is, do the Muslims feel the need to reach out to people beyond their own community?
Right. You know, as immigrant Catholics came to America and transformed themselves from isolated communities that only looked inward, as immigrant Jews came to America and transformed ourselves from communities that were fearful and only looked inward to communities that were engaged in dialogue with the country and with other religious groups, so too the rise of an important and powerful and respected Muslim community in America is now going through the same transformations that our ancestors went through when they came from Dublin or when they came from Minsk. And these transformations are now bringing the Muslim community, it is wonderful to say and wonderful to observe, into dialogue with other religious groups. And I think will, in the future, this is my hope and prayer, it's also my expectation, that American Muslims will be the most important force in bringing Islam through the difficult times that it is confronting now.
Well, more and more as we become comfortable with each other and trust each other, we'll listen to each other better, and we'll share not only the easy questions, but the difficult questions. The idea of incorporating oneself into the community is an important thing. Joining us on the show are Dr. Kushalata Jayakar Ahmed, the Muslim member, and Bobbie Rosenzweig, the Jewish member of the American Muslims and Jews in Dialogue of Long Island. Welcome.
Welcome, Bobbie. Welcome, Kushal.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to have you with us. Tell us about AMJID, this association that you have created and are founding members of. How did it begin, and what are its purposes?
Actually, I would like to defer to not myself, but Bobbie, simply because she's the one who initiated this almost 12 years ago.
To both of you.
Yeah, because I was a part of the Islamic Center of Long Island as a member, and she's the one who really made the initiative.
Okay,
and I must
that's
really
very
defer
humble of
to
you.
her.
Well, not really me. It was really my rabbi, Jerome Davidson, who is the senior rabbi at my temple, Temple Bethel in Great Neck. I was the implementer. It was his idea. At the time, we're going back now,
1992?
Well, that's when I would say about 1990, 91, he was the chairman of an interreligious committee at the UAHC, which is Union of American Hebrew Congregations. And in that capacity, he met a lot of people from different faiths. And he had been on a panel with a couple of Muslim national spokesmen. So he got to know them, and he realized that, as you said before, the Muslim community was expanding by leaps and bounds and becoming a very integral part of the American religious community. We were like no more Catholic, Protestant, Jew. It was now a little more, you know. And he felt that it was important to start, since none of us had ever really had any interaction with Muslims, he thought it was important to start.
So what did you do?
He called me, and I said I didn't. He wanted to make it local because it would be more friendly, and I didn't think there were any Muslims on Long Island, but I did a lot of research. Went to some organizations in New York City. There was a mosque in New York.
Was the Islamic Center in existence back in '91?
Yes.
Yes.
So, that was their address.
Well, we didn't know it was. We didn't know there were any Muslims on Long Island. I finally met a gentleman at a meeting in New York City, Ghazi Khan, whom you may know, who told me about the mosque in Westbury.
What was the reaction of the Muslim community when they were first approached?
It was very positive.
Very
See,
much.
the difference is, as Bobbie says, that she didn't know any Muslims, whereas the difference with us...
You knew there were Jews and Christians.
Not just that. Majority of us happen to be doctors, physicians, working in the hospitals where almost most of them have doctors which are from Jewish community. We knew them right from the beginning. At least I remember being in Brooklyn, and one of the funny stories that I always tell people is I lived in a house rented from a rabbi, and one of the daughters came to ask for a hair dryer, and when she returned it, she went back to her mom. She says, "Oh, mommy, you know what? Mrs. Ahmed wasn't there, but Rabbi Ahmed was there." And since then, we have become Rabbi Ahmed and Mrs. Ahmed.
That's funny.
So,
So you started the idea of meeting together. That was your first.
Yes, four of us got together,
And
two
you had
from the mosque and
meetings
Rabbi
in
and
different
myself.
homes.
That's
Followed
for
up,
the first
yeah.
couple of years. That's what we did. Actually, the first one was in my home.
How
and
often did you meet in those early years during a year?
Maybe
Twice a year?
once. Oh no, more than that.
No,
more
more
than
often,
that. I
much
would
more
say
often.
every
Once a
couple of
month?
months. Every couple of months.
Every
Yeah.
couple of
5,
months?
6, 7
Yeah.
times a year.
And how
Yeah.
many people were involved in the dialogue?
Not many, because in a dialogue you
Initially.
can't have too
No,
many
that's
people.
right.
We had about a dozen, 15
At
from
the
each
most,
group.
at
At
the
the
most.
most.
Okay.
And
then as those years passed, how about today? How often do you meet, and what are your activities?
well, from that we went into going into the community, to the mosques and the synagogue, and we had some fabulous programs. Now we don't have so many meetings. We mostly have our programs that
And
we are
how
running.
many programs do you have?
The programs
During a
usually
year.
include.
Now, yes, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No.
No, the programs usually include the special holidays. For example, we would be invited to the Seders in Temple Bethel, and they would be invited for Eid functions. So that is like anything which is special related to the religious activities.
So how often in a year would AMJID have programs now?
Now, very few. We used to have 2, 3, 4 a year. We're sort of, everything has it's been
It's time.
13, 14, 15 years. The thing we're doing now, right now, is having an interchange with our teens. It's next Tuesday. The teens, like ages 13, 14, 15, we have hours going to the mosque. They
How
came
did the
to us
students-
last year.
How do the students interact with each other?
When they came to us last year, it was, we broke them up into little groups after we told them each about the religions, and I was eavesdropping, and I'm listening to these young guys, and they're talking about baseball, dating, just plain
So
old
you
normal
almost couldn't
things.
tell the difference between,
You not at all, because
Can't.
all those young people are born and bred Americans.
as
They're
you,
not immigrants,
as the
they're
two of
born-
you look back on this experience,
Mhm.
what was it that made it interesting and important to you?
To me, the picture comes to my mind the first time when the Jewish community of AMJID group visited our mosque. And I remember the picture, I don't know, maybe you all too, the two of you and the two of the members of AMJID and the Islamic Center, I don't know who it was Farooq Khan and Ghazi Khan at the entrance of the mosque. And that picture is so completely
Just welcoming.
welcoming. And that picture
and
is
even
something
just
that-
going there.
Absolutely. I thought that was the thing that strikes me as something special, which normally would
Bobbie,
not
what-
have happened.
Well, I had
What
never been
influenced
in
you?
a mosque in my life, and it was wonderful to go. It was a wonderful experience.
Before I met Mark, I had never been to a synagogue.
Okay.
Exactly.
So what is
But
the
the-
future of AMJID? How is this an organization that was a pioneer and it's sort of fading, or do you still meet regularly?
We don't meet regularly, but we plan programs every now and then. We don't meet regularly in the way we used to at each other's homes. That
we
was
return
marvelous.
To our Muslim neighbors, we will continue a very important discussion on outreach work. So please stay with us. almost everyone is concerned about the young people. Are they passing on the faith? Are they learning the faith? Today we're learning about what the Muslim community in the United States is doing to reach out to people of other faiths. Joining us now is Mushir Hassan, the adult coordinator for the Milwaukee Interfaith Youth Forum. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Mushir.
Thank you.
This is a very, very positive and, I think, just extremely hopeful organization. And congratulations, first of all.
Oh, thanks.
Well,
on
he's
the
just saying that
achievements.
because he's from Milwaukee.
That's right. Yeah, hey there. And it's great to have someone from my hometown. Tell us about the organization, what inspired you to work with it, and what some of the achievements are that you're most proud of.
The organization itself, I think, is really been nurtured along by the Archdiocese of Milwaukee,
That's the Interfaith Youth Forum.
the Interfaith Youth Forum.
And it has, so you've got, obviously you've got Jews and Catholics
and
and
Muslims.
Muslims. Do you have Hindus, Buddhists?
Initially, when we first started out, we did not. But now, as the organization has taken on a life of its own, we're starting to get other faith traditions involved. For the initial forum, the goal was to have Catholics, Muslims, and Jewish students of the high school age get together and talk about their religions during the course of a Saturday.
And the Archdiocese of Milwaukee was the sort of guiding and inspirational
They had
force.
done one for the Christian faith itself, and they had a model and a plan that we could utilize to expand into 3 faiths. And during the course of a year of meetings, we were able to tease out key points that we wanted the kids to talk about.
And this forum that we have some tape from was back in 2002?
2002, November 2002.
And what happened in it? It was
in the morning,
a one-day,
it was a one-day event, and in the morning we had basically 3 Muslim high school students, 3 Catholic high school students, and 3 Jewish high school students sitting at a table. There's a designated table leader at each table that was the youth, and they were charged with going over 10 to 15 questions about different faiths that everyone wanted to make sure that they understood before they left.
How many different tables did you have there?
I think we had
7,000.
No, I wish we did. We had about 120 kids there, so about 12 tables.
Well, that's great. All right, let's take a quick look at what some kids that attended the Interfaith Youth Forum back in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, had to say about it.
With all the chaos going on in the Middle East, and because there's like so much killing, I just wanted to say that this is a really good program because it's bringing people together who in other countries are having problems understanding each other.
We need more unity right now, especially after everything that's happened in the past year. And like to see that young people who are going to be the leaders of tomorrow are taking that step and doing that. It's kind of important for the adults to see that we really care about the future.
And I think doing it with kids, like especially youth our age, is really good because then, like, you know, when we're older and we're raising our kids, then we can instill these values of peace and breaking down barriers. We can bestow these upon our kids.
Do this in memory of me.
That was terrific. That's just.
I get the impression that there was a closeness, a unity, a comfortableness with each other.
I think there was both at an adult level as well as at a youth level. What was interesting to me is that after the forum was done, a lot of our kids ended up meeting each other doing social justice work. A lot of them were members of the high school chapters of the ACLU, and so they crossed paths doing that. Other soup kitchens and other community service organizations that the kids were a part of, such as Amnesty International.
Was there something that you learned from this experience that surprised you or you hadn't learned before?
I was impressed, I think, as a Muslim adult who wants to make sure that our youth that are growing up here know about Islam, at just how we can police our Sunday schools, if you will. Mm-hmm. Because we have, we certainly want to get the basics of the religion out. But when you have a child who's asked, I understand Muslims don't eat pork and don't drink alcohol, is there anything else you don't do? And he responds with, well, we don't eat monkey. You kind of chuckle, but you also realize that he hasn't really been educated as to how to present the question back in a form that he
Right.
can
He assumes
educate.
that everyone knows as much about Islam as he does.
Right.
Right. And we all do. We assume, it's hard for Jews to explain about Judaism sometimes because you say, what, you don't know that? Of course, if you're not Jewish, you wouldn't know that necessarily.
I think for all the adults that were involved, it was helpful for us to get an idea of how much our kids know about their own religion by having them talk to other kids about their religions.
When do young people begin their education in the Muslim faith?
I think that really age 4 or 5. A lot of the weekend Islamic schools that I've been involved with, they'll start at that age.
Now, we have a system where you go, say, to the public school and you would go to the Catholic school 1 hour a week, or you would go to the Catholic school. Do you have a similar situation?
Usually because of time constraints, I think the weekends are what most folks are using.
Like us. It's a supplemental school.
Yeah, I think some folks are trying now to have weekday programs as well. I think as the Muslim community has grown, we've now got the physical infrastructure to do that.
Before we break, I wanted to just ask you, this was about a year after September 11th, and the feelings must have been very raw in the community. How did the kids get around anger and fear? Fear from the Muslim kids and possibly anger from the non-Muslim kids?
Well, I think in Milwaukee we've been lucky in that we've had a strong interfaith tradition,
Yes.
even before September 11th. And so because of that, a lot of the fear and anger wasn't there as much as it was curiosity. And so a lot of the kids were more curious just to learn about different faiths, and there was much more a sense of feeling at ease.
Well, Mark and I both support organizations like this. You're doing great work.
You are.
We thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
When we return, we'll be joined by 2 prominent Long Island Muslims who are heavily involved in interfaith outreach efforts. So please, stay with us.
Welcome back. We have, joining us now, Dr. Humayun Chaudhry, Hank Chaudhry, a board member of the Multi-Faith Forum, and Dr. Hafizur Rehman, president of Dar-ul-Quran, a mosque of Bayshore. Welcome. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Well,
The
you've been-
Multi-Faith Forum. Tell us about that.
Well, first of all, thank you, Rabbi Gelman and Father Hartman, for inviting us. The Multi-Faith Forum was started almost 10 years ago with the assistance of the Long Island Council of Churches. And what we do is we outreach and go to churches and synagogues and cultural centers and increasingly at high schools to educate people about the different faiths on Long Island, not just Islam, but also other faiths. There are almost 12 faiths on Long Island that are represented.
Sometimes I think there's 12 faiths in my synagogue. So it's absolutely
no,
true.
that's 12 points of view.
Yes. Well, that's just from 2 congregants. The Multi-Faith Forum, tell us about its activities in going and doing these lectures. Is it primarily laity? Is it clergy who are involved? And what have you learned from being involved in the activities of the Multi-Faith Forum?
Okay, I'm involved from the Bayshore,
With the Bayshore Mosque.
Right, and we have a very active Bayshore Interfaith Council, and we have a clergy association also on which I sit. Even though I'm not a clergy, I'm a pediatrician. But in Islam and mosque,
Yes,
you
the
know,
imam
the imam has certain functions. As a president, I represent the mosque at the clergy association. After 9/11, I took upon myself and my friends at the mosque that the tarnished image of Muslims and Islam has to be corrected, and the correct perspective has to be put forward.
Absolutely.
And we have been very, very active in that. We have worked at all levels, at the clergy level, at the interfaith level, and in the schools.
Dr. Mark and I have traveled the country talking about interfaith activities, and naturally the question comes up is, where does the Muslim community stand? We're so grateful that the two of you came and that we're doing this show, because we sincerely believe that the Muslim faith was hijacked by some of the activities.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
we have been longing to hear that from different clergy people and in the Muslim tradition.
Well, soon after 9/11, at the Bayshore High School, we had, a gathering where I was the keynote speaker, and I put forward, I told them there that this religion has been hijacked, and we are here as good citizens, and we represent like anybody else. We are just as much hurt. And from there onwards, we have not stopped. I've gone to the schools, I've gone to the church, I've gone to the synagogues.
You can't stop. You have to keep doing it.
And we are doing it day in and day out.
We had a show in which we were talking with people who had been affected by 9/11. And the thing that struck me, and I hadn't seen it before, was Muslims lost many people in that event. And,
a large number
sometimes
of
you get the impression that it's just Americans who died, which wasn't the case.
Well, they were Americans, but they were Muslims.
They were Americans.
Yeah,
Or
they were
just
Americans, but Muslims.
You can be an American
Yeah.
and be a Muslim,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
as we know.
The
And
two of us,
that's-
we are Americans and we
The
are
rabbi's
Muslims.
teaching me again.
Now, one thing I'm very interested in, and that is this sort of asymmetry, this not inequality, but this very big difference in the structure of Christianity and Judaism, where we have professional clergy, who, priests or ministers or rabbis, whose full-time job is to be a rabbi or a minister or a priest. But Islam, except for, ayatollahs and others and some imams who are fully employed, mainly uses what we would call laity, non-clergy, to run the mosque. It's a wonderful model, but sometimes it makes it difficult in interfaith activities to have equals facing equals. Have you noticed that problem?
Well, we don't have that problem in the mosque. The president usually is not the clergy, is not the imam. We
Same
do have
as-
an imam, a full-time imam, who functions there, and we'll consult him on all religious
But he
affairs.
doesn't go out with the other clergy.
He can go.
But you go.
He can go, but in this particular situation, I go. I represent the mosque when we have.
I think it depends on the
meetings.
circumstance.
Yeah.
With the Multi-Faith Forum, we try to actually purposefully avoid all clergy.
Very
we
good
try
idea.
to keep it at the laity, at the
You
laity
get to
level.
talk then.
We keep it at, well, they have a lot of things to do to begin with, so we'd like to keep it at the simple level.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not scholars. I'm not a scholar on Islam, but I talk about my own experiences growing up in Brooklyn. I'm actually a member of the Air Force in the reserve, so I talk about my experiences as an American Muslim. And certainly my activities have gone up since 9/11 in trying to do more of these outreach efforts to churches and synagogues across Long Island.
What have you most learned personally that surprised you in this work? Not that you were upset about, that you needed to help, but what surprised you in
What
positive
surprised
ways?
me most was when the high school children came to the mosque, or the youth group came from the church to the mosque. They were absolutely surprised that there are so many common things, that we are human beings also, nice people, not terrorists. They were afraid to come to the mosque, at one time.
Yes, of course.
And they found out, that we are just as good as anybody else.
And
Same
Rabbi,
kind-
speaking for the
yeah.
Multi-Faith Forum, if I could interject, I knew that there are similarities between Judaism, Christianity, and Islam as an Abrahamic faith.
Sure.
I didn't realize how much we have in common with many other faiths on Long Island: Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism. Everyone seems to follow the golden rule of do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Absolutely.
If you were addressing a group of adults about the Muslim faith and the acceptance of Muslims into American society and that, what would you say? What would be the point that you would want to make known?
Well, we would tell them that, we originate from the Patriarch Abraham, right? The Muslims, the Jews, the Christians, and we have much more in common than things which are not common, and we have to work together. The Quran makes it absolutely clear that we all are children of Adam.
Boy, what a great way
Yeah.
to conclude
Yeah.
our discussion. First of all, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And God bless you in your work.
Thank you.
Tom, this was just a wonderful show for me to see how many God Squads there are in the community. People going out and doing the work of helping people be tolerant and respectful and loving.
We only present to you the best of people. You are amongst the best of people. I'm Father Tom Hartman.
And I'm Rabbi Mark Gelman.
We're the God Squad. God bless you.